my last video, I added a collar and I reinforced my seams. Now that the base of my vest was finally built, I could move on to the smaller design details. Things that change how the vest actually functions. I love the oversized and boxy shape of my vest. But there was one problem. An open waistline will just let cold air move straight up through the garment. And if I'm building this for cold weather, that matters. I needed a way to tighten the waist whenever I wanted to without changing the overall shape of the vest. I didn't want to add a traditional belt. It would add bulk, extra weight, and way too much material hanging off the body. So I started looking for another solution, and eventually I settled on a double-cinch waistband. Cinch systems have been used for a really long time. Originally, they were designed for function, to tighten clothing, control fit, and secure layers under movement. You'll see versions of them everywhere. Military gear, outdoor equipment, workwear, even older hunting garments. Not just because they look good, but because they work. They let you adjust the garment without restricting any movement. And for this vest, that made perfect sense. Once I cut the waistband out of leather, I moved on to the straps. Honestly, it was a tedious process. It took way longer than I expected. How long should the straps be? How wide? What shape I wanted them to have? And how was I even going to assemble them? I had never sewn anything like this before. You can probably see how slow I'm sewing here, and that was intentional. But my biggest lesson so far has probably been that what I lack in experience, I can usually make up for with patience. Just slowing down, paying attention, and giving myself time to figure things out properly. At this point, I also started burning down my threads, mostly for a cleaner, more finished look, but I also think it helps lock the back stitches in place. It's a small detail, but details like this will add up across the entire garment. Next, I moved on to the back buckle strap. Sewing these buckles on was honestly pretty awkward. My machine wasn't really designed for shapes like this, so I had to get creative with how I fed everything through. It was a lot of trial and error. Through all of this, I kept coming back to the same goal. I want this vest to last a lifetime. And my waistband was going to take on a lot of stress. Constant movement, constant tension, and a constant pulling force every time it gets tightened. So I reinforced everything heavily, which meant a lot of rivets. I took my time measuring everything out, lining things up, remeasuring, and trying to keep the waistband perfectly symmetrical. The hardest part was temporarily holding everything in place while I aligned it, and the simplest solution is often the best solution. So I started using craft glue sticks. And it was just enough hold to position the leather without getting in the way of stitching. Surprisingly, it worked perfectly. Once the waistband itself was finished, I ran into an entirely different problem. How do you attach something like this to a shearling vest? And how do I keep it perfectly centered the entire time? Because once you start sewing on leather, there's no way to go back. So I decided to anchor everything from a center point first. One rivet. And then I just worked from there.